Hangin with Denny.
And I thought, all right, let me try to write this. So what I did was I decided to go the stand-up route, and I did about 10 to 20 minutes of each character, a set here or there at comedy clubs. I bombed a lot.
Of course.
I wasn't funny always.
Yeah.
But then something stuck, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, that's funny. You know, it's funny when I talk about getting my first my period. Sorry,
right.
Everybody.
Yeah.
But it's the story is hilarious. How I got it is ridiculous, but I didn't know it was ridiculously funny until I said it out loud.
Right.
So I started writing and I thought, well, this is kind of embarrassing. And then I said it out loud and I'm like, Jesus, that's funny. Okay.
Well, how did you get it? I mean, now
do you really want to know?
Yes.
Oh God, I fell down a well.
You fell down a well.
Like Baby Jessica in the 90s. Yeah, I fell down a well.
How do you fall down a well?
Well, this is what happened. I was a chubby child, and I was, my mom was like, you need to go outside and play with friends and run around.
Sure.
And of course, for my luck,
I'm
sure you're like, I'm sweating. I sweat when I tell the story because I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm reliving this. Like,
great.
it's the one thing in life that you're like, no female wants to relive these moments, and I'm reliving it. So I fell down this well because
if you need some brioche.
No, sure. I love it. I freaking love it. I was playing freeze tag with a bunch of kids in our block.
Yeah.
Like, that's how old I am. I'm like, freeze tag. I don't think that exists
I play
now.
freeze tag.
Thank you.
Love freeze
When I
tag.
say that joke in the audience, everyone like laughs, and there's always like that random like 13-year-old that looks clueless, and I'm like, oh Jesus,
tag.
she doesn't know what freeze tag is.
Remember Manhunt? Like Manhunt?
I hated Manhunt. I was a chubby kid. I didn't like it. I don't want to run fast. It's embarrassing. Things shake. It's uncomfortable. They clap together and it's just whatever. So playing freeze tag, and of course the boy that I loved was like on my block, like, you know, he's like the older kid. And I'm running because he picked me to be on his team and I have to touch base the whole thing. And there was a manhole that was covered, that was not like there was a sign, and we were in the woods by our house, and I fell down this well. And this guy, he was like 13 at the time, he had to go get my mother and come get me.
Like, how far was the well? Like,
so I lived, believe it or not, I lived on Anthony Street, McGuire, shout out. I grew up on Anthony Street in Staten Island, and Anthony Street had a huge, like I would say, wooded area that you can like play in.
Got it, yeah.
You shouldn't. My mother would like check us for ticks every day. It was like, what? But it was awesome, like, to be a kid.
Totally.
If you were an athletic kid, it'd be even better, but I wasn't. I was very shy.
Nobody goes out anymore and plays out, by the way, in those places.
Well, I was the kid that, like, I went out, but I sat by a brook and read a book. Like, I was that kid. So, no. But I was playing freeze tag, and I fell down this well, and he had to go get my mom. So she came running with my aunts, my cousins, like, everybody, because we all lived near each other. I mean, who are we kidding? And they couldn't get me out. Yeah. And I was sitting on the bottom of this well, and I hurt my leg very badly.
Like, how deep were you in?
I would say about 8 feet.
Okay, so you were down there a little bit.
I was down there. They couldn't get me. Like they were making that, like, what is that, human chain?
Yeah,
and they couldn't get me. So my mother called the ambulance, the fire department, like everybody. So everybody came, and in order to, converse with me, you had to yell down the well, and everything echoed.
Right.
And my mom's like, the police, and I heard the sirens, and I will never forget sitting on the bottom of that well and thinking, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on up there. Like, I couldn't see anything. It was dark, and they firemen lowered something down, and I held onto it, and they pulled me up, and when I came out, my whole leg was all bleeding, and the firemen were like, oh my God. So they picked me up, they carried me out of this forest, and they put me on the back of the truck.
Yeah.
And now the entire neighborhood's there because,
So you're
it's
13,
Staten Island.
14?
I'm about 12.
12, okay.
I really don't want to admit this, but I'm about 12. And the entire neighborhood was there, and the firefighter was like, oh, there's blood, and everyone was like, my mother's crying. It was very dramatic.
Right.
I remember thinking, I'm dying, like, there's blood everywhere. And the firefighter ripped open the bottom of my pants, and there was no cut on my leg, no nothing. And I was like, Mom, my stomach is killing me. And everyone connected the dots, that was the moment I got my goddamn period.
So firemen, ambulance.
Everyone. So what my mother does is she steps onto the fire truck, she turns around to the entire crowd, and she's like, guys, and she makes it a giant announcement. She's like, Candice is just fine, and I swear to you, it was like at least 50 people. And she was like, she got her period. This crowd, dear God, they cheered. And one by one, each person was coming up to me and hugging me, congratulating me. The firefighters were shaking my hand. I stood there in shock. Like, I can't believe.
Is that what you do? I don't know. I wouldn't know the reaction.
In my family, when you get your period, oh, it's like, woo! It's like, what has happened? And then from that moment...
She's a woman.
She's a woman, right, exactly. It's the most exciting thing to them.
Yeah.
And then my grandmother, who's a very specific woman, she came through the crowd with a cup of coffee. And I didn't have to make this up. And people were like, this story is so amazing. You're such a good writer. I'm like, no, actually happened.
Yeah.
Walk through the crowd with a cup of coffee. She was in like this tight slip because my grandmother was not a traditional Italian grandmother. tight slit, high heels, red lips, cigarette out of her mouth. And she was like, here's a cup of coffee. And I remember taking this cup of coffee. I'm 12 years old with blood all over me, like taking this cup of coffee. And she's like, it's time you know what it tastes like. She's like, and welcome to womanhood, Candice. And I remember looking up at her and her big brown eyes, and she's like, it fucking sucks. And I stood there like, I can't believe this is happening to me. Fast forward, 2 weeks later, I received cards in the mail saying welcome to womanhood.
From the family?
Yes, the local priest came to my house to say congratulations. Like it was as if everyone knew what has happened to me, and it was shocking. And that was my story.
That was fantastic.
So sad.
That's an amazing story about getting your period.
Is that freaking horrible?
That's that's fantastic. I mean, the visual of you I see people trying to pull you up. You think something's hurting.
And as a kid, you're not connecting. You see blood, and you're like, oh god, I must be cut.
Myself.
Like I have no, and it hurt. Like I fell on my butt. It hurt. No cut, no nothing.
You became a woman.
Totally fine. Went down that well. I came up a woman. I don't know what the hell happened. It was the weirdest experience, and that has stuck with me. And clearly, that is a story that is in my show.
That's great.
So I mean, that alone is a little piece of Italian bread right there.
Hanging with